Hi everyone, my name's Verity and I'm a Planning Director at Initiative working with Will Lloyd from Rapport, and we'll be taking you through the use of out of home for Carlsberg's largest ever rebrand. For decades, Carlsberg have been telling people they're probably the best beer in the world, but sometimes a brand needs to take stock and reflect and ask themselves if they're really living up to their own rhetoric. And in 2018, Carlsberg did just that, and sadly realised that the answer was probably not. So they embarked on a 3-year plan to relaunch the brand entirely, starting at their roots by creating a new and improved brew and extending this into releasing new packaging, glassware, and even newly designed fonts in pubs nationwide. With their house firmly in order, it was time to start tackling brand perceptions, setting us at Initiative the challenge of increasing brand consideration amongst key high-value audiences. And this was no small task. We were faced with what can only be described as some very frank and very strong opinions on the brand and the product itself. So a key challenge for us was how to tackle years of culturally ingrained and very, very public low brand and taste perceptions. At Initiative, we strongly believe in the power of culture to build relevance between brands and audiences. And one of our routes into harnessing the power of culture uses something we call cultural agitation. The act of taking a clear and strong stance on a provocative issue to earn a reaction from consumers. In this case, the answer lies within the problem itself. We would simply harness the strong opinion of Carlsberg amongst consumers. So we started by acknowledging that we hadn't really been the best, turning our haters into a channel in their own right by taking their words and feeding them directly back to them. As Twitter had been the main source of opinion for us, naturally we started there, appearing to accidentally promote some of the worst tweets we'd received, and even fooling people into believing our clients were about to get fired. However, we needed routes to take this into the real world and create even more conversation.
The very public nature of out of home made this the perfect channel to drive further conversation. The campaign was launched with torn special build posters revealing probably not the best beer in the world messaging. We further bridged the offline and online conversation by using influencers to discover our posters and share with their followers, fueling more discussion. And once we were sure everyone was talking about it, we pulled the rug from underneath, announcing the launch of the new Danish Pilsner through a high-reaching broadcast campaign across TV, VOD, and out of home. A combination of rail, roadside, and underground large format was used, a blend of classic and dig to maximize reach and engagement. Storytelling on high dwell time formats was used to highlight the beer's improvements and generate word of mouth. We also had an experiential zone in Waterloo Station, activated as a mini brewery to provide taste samples of the new brew to London commuters. The success of this led to a nationwide sampling campaign. The sampling would form the final pillar of our campaign, Substantiate, where we would put our money where our mouth is and offer the country a free pint of the new and improved brew. We used programmatic digital out of home to reach our target audience segments as efficiently as possible. This was powered by our audience management platform AMP and blended a combination of YouGov, route, and mobile location data. We also went live on screens that over-indexed against our audience, alongside an element of proximity to Carlsberg pubs. Each screen was then geofenced with mobile ads driving people to download a voucher for a free pint whilst they were on the move. And now looking at campaign results, the out of home and mobile together drove over 9,000 redemptions of the free pint offer. We delivered a significant increase in consideration, and further than that, we saw 11% increase in the likelihood to recommend. And most importantly, Carlsberg saw a 14% sales increase in the pubs.
But our work wasn't finished there. 2020 was due to be a continuation of the relaunch with a very clear focus on driving increased awareness of the new brew. Plans and creative were all in place, and then this happened. Carlsberg's most profitable revenue driver, the pub, was closed down by the pandemic. So we were set a new challenge by the client to win in comms as the pubs reopen. Again, this was no small task. We had reduced budgets and we were facing more nimble independents like Brewdog, who were already reacting to the pandemic, even managing to create and distribute their own hand sanitizer during the national shortage. So we decided to look for another opportunity in cultural agitation. We'd all seen during lockdown that a new sense of community had grown within the UK. The pub, a central part of that community, was sadly under threat, not only through loss of earnings, but the very idea of pubs opening at what felt like such an early stage had become a real note of controversy. So here lied our opportunity. Carlsberg would take their own stance on this polarising subject, showing their support for the revenue driver that had always supported them. Working with Carlsberg Global, we developed a platform called Love My Local, designed to provide free and easy support for any independent pubs that wanted to reopen safely. The platform provided and still provides free technology to enable contactless payments, table bookings, and even table ordering services. And this provided the central platform for Carlsberg's end of lockdown campaign, allowing us to show our support for the reopening of pubs, along with a demonstrative commitment from the brand in making that reopening as safe as possible for consumers. So, on the 23rd of June, at the very moment Boris announced pubs would reopen and that he himself would be enjoying a nice pint, we launched a social campaign, counting down the days to the safe reopening of the beloved local pub. Focusing on social at launch allowed us to react very quickly in an environment that we knew people would flock to. We even managed to beat the BBC in making the announcement on Twitter. But in the true spirit of cultural agitation, we wanted to show our support for the local in a more public and impactful way, which is where out of home had a crucial role in the next stages of the campaign.
Whilst the Love My Local platform helped pubs safely reopen, we still needed to drive consumer demand for Carlsberg and so much needed footfall into local pubs around the country. In the final days leading up to the end of lockdown, in what the media were dubbing as Super Saturday, we heightened our visibility using the powerful combination of out-of-home and TV to build reach quickly. Teaser out-of-home copy running 3 days before the end of lockdown built on the increasing anticipation the UK was feeling around this step back to normality. Running with copies such as almost in touching distance and so close you can almost taste it. Using a combination of data sources, including DFT, Apple, CACI and Root, we focused out-of-home investment to environments and areas where out-of-home audiences had remained strong during lockdown. We optimized our frames locally in line with the campaign's community theme, but also in the fact that we knew that from our mobility data that our local audience mobility had increased significantly during the pandemic. Additionally, we included an element of proximity to local pubs to ensure we were supporting the central part of communities. Then the next day, at 12 p.m. exactly, all of our nationwide screens changed to the launch creative, the exact minute pubs reopened their doors. The new copy perfectly captured the national sentiment that after so long of being told to stay apart, drinking at home or on a Zoom call with friends, you can now share a proper pint face-to-face at your local pub. The activity ran nationally for 2 weeks up until the 14th of July, working to build incremental reach on VOD and the online video campaign running alongside.
And the results were really strong. Through taking a stance on a polarising subject, we were able to drive significant PR coverage. But most importantly, we achieved our task in winning in comms. Coming out of the campaign, we saw a YouGov ad awareness score of 12.8% versus just 2% for our lager competitors. So some fantastic results from the relaunch over the last 2 years, in which out of home has played and will continue to play an intrinsic role within our channel mix. So that's it from the case study itself. We'll now have a look to see if we have any questions from you. So, great presentation, guys. Thank you very much. Do you feel that this campaign was so successful because the messaging was pretty unique and humble? Yeah, I think the humble nature of the creative is very much something that we wanted to come through when we worked very closely with the creative agency Fold. We spent a lot of time thinking about the tone of voice of the brand and coming across as a kind of witty, humble brand was really important. So we thought that this route was a way for us to really bring that to life. So we hope that that really came through. And I guess the kind of uniqueness is the area of cultural agitation that we were going after. So it's really about identifying something that's polarizing and putting your own stance on it, which I think is something that's often quite difficult for brands to do, and that's where we hopefully managed to do some quite unique things for the brand. Next question was, how did you decide where to place the ads? Was it all centered around pubs, or were there any other community spaces used? So within outdoor, we had across both campaigns a mix of proximity focused activity, which was in line with both pubs and and retail spaces as well. And the community element, we also had sort of the larger high impact activity, which sat within kind of town centres, delivering across that more community element. And another question here, how did consumers respond to the call to download vouchers? Do you know how many people got a free beer? So yeah, we had over 9,000 people actually redeemed the voucher itself. So that's 9,000 beers that people enjoyed on us. And the other side of that question, how did consumers respond to the call? So it was just a link to a page where they were then able to put their postcode in and find a pub within their area and download a voucher then, which they could redeem at that pub. And the next question is, how quickly did your strategy pivot when pubs closed? If you're referencing the second lockdown, the end of lockdown campaign had already finished before the second lockdown came in, so our timing was quite lucky there. But I guess across a lot of agencies, we've all had to react very quickly to lockdown. So we were careful to make sure that we were behaving in a way that would allow us to react to any further lockdowns, and using media channels that we were able to pause quickly and react quickly, such as digital out of home allows us to pause really quickly, which was one of the considerations we made as part of the planning. And I think those are all the questions that we've had. Oh, one more. How did digital elements perform versus static? Well, we had very different KPIs across the campaign. So our digital elements were always set up for their respective digital KPIs. And I guess digital out of home versus static out of home, we were using those in slightly different ways in things like the programmatic digital out of home had a slightly different role versus the static out of home we were using. So it's hard to say exactly how they performed versus each other, but it was really focused in the way that we planned it to make sure that we were clear on what the role of each of those were as we were planning. So I think that's it from questions, in which case we will say goodbye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.